What's up everybody and welcome back to another Dota 1 replay brought to you by yours truly V-Ball. This is a matchup from GMPGL Cambodia. It is nice to see that GMPGL have expanded their horizons and keeping Dota 1 not alive only in the Philippines but also in other areas of Southeast Asia. Maybe areas that don't really have the best systems that can be set up to be equipped for Dota 2. Maybe the LAN cafes have not been upgraded, but nonetheless it is still nice to see that Dota 1 is thriving in some part of the world. It just means more people will switch to Dota 2 eventually. You will never run, you will never hide, Dota 2 will get you. So it's still nice to see people still playing Dota 1 from time to time. And again, as usual, when I pick a Dota 1 game these days, it's heroes that have not yet been introduced into Dota 2 or heroes that are in Dota 2 that have not been picked in Cam's mode. And this game, not going to spoil anything for now, because you'll see in a couple minutes what hero will be revealed, but this game I'm very excited about. And hopefully I can get a bit of insight and see how this hero operates in competitive environment. Because again, this is competitive, maybe not the highest level play, but SVRES is definitely a team that has participated and placed pretty highly at a couple of GEST Dota 1 tournaments. Meanwhile, their opponents are CAHSM. I'm not too sure, I've never heard of these guys, but hopefully they'll put on a good match. So we'll just take a look at these picks and bans. Normally I don't really analyze picks and bans in Dota 1, but this game is a Cabinet mode game, and it wasn't really the longest Cabinet mode game, so might as well put in a bit of filler time, analyze these picks and bans. And you can see Leicester are going to be the first ban by SVR. Interesting, because actually in Dota 1, SVR, yes, we're probably the only people who played Leicester for a frequent time before he even got popular in Dota 2, mostly played by Nakem. So it's pretty interesting to see that Leicester is going to be banned by Nakem here. But I guess they really value Magnetar and Weaver very highly. Again, heroes that you don't see first picked up anymore. Even Magnus is sort of not become a first pick, even though he's still a really difficult hero to deal with. And the counterpart on the other side of the equation is Drow, and if you have not seen that game with Drow, Dragonite, I don't know, SGG might have had a little bit of trouble recording that because his memory ran out. Shouts to Max and their terrible recording software. But yeah, shouts to SGG as well. Again, if you want reliable Dota 1 coverage, he is your man that you should look out for. YouTube.com/ScreenGuardGuy, and I know I still know Gods does cover Dota 1 from time to time, either on Gods Studios or Beyond the Summit TV. So yeah, if you want to catch Dota 1, there are still avenues to pursue it. And of course, shouts to DieSmiling666 for putting on all of these classic Dota 1 highlight videos, which are really amazing. And so yeah, there are a lot of places to look for Dota 1 if you still want to see regular content. But we'll see. I think I've decided to put off on doing the nostalgia why I got into casting Dota 1 replays. I put that project on hold for now, so I do not know when I'm going to start that up, maybe when demand's higher. But yeah, if you were not knowing what I'm talking about, check out my vlog a couple videos ago. Anyway, back into the game, enough rambling. Gonna see Dragonite as well as Earthshaker. And Earthshaker's an interesting hero. People have been saying he's a little bit different in Dota 2 Fissure Block. The pathing mechanics in Dota 2 always bug me a little bit because heroes just like to take the most awkward path around things in Dota 2, even though it has been fixed somewhat. But Earthshaker is still very highly valued in the Southeast Asian Dota 1 scene. He's a very powerful try-in hero because he has Fissure to isolate heroes from their allies and really just make for easy kills. And of course, Southeast Asian Dota 1 players, they always manage to get the dagger up at around the 22 to 25 minute mark. And that just means that Earthshaker will just have a huge, gigantic impact in the game once he picks up that dagger. And more often than not, when Earthshaker wins, it's usually the Earthshaker player that is really the MVP for his team, because they just put on spectacular Echo Slams. And they're going to pick up the Keeper of the Light, so they are just solidifying their Shrine. Keeper of the Light, one of those heroes that works well with any Shrine, especially with Earthshaker, because Earthshaker does have mana problems. We'll see if they decide to pair him with something like a Phantom Lancer or something more traditional like that. Phantom Lancer is making a bit of a comeback in the Southeast Asian scene. Definitely in part because of his rise to notoriety in the Dota 2 scene, I think, because before that he wasn't really picked or played too much at all. But he's still a very powerful hero, and Keeper of the Light Phantom Lancer, definitely an annoying combination. And actually, this is not the hero I was talking about. I actually completely forgot about this hero, Abaddon, in the SVRES squad. So this is not the hero. So yeah, Abaddon. Some things to talk about Abaddon. He's a very strong tri-lane support. Even though he's melee, he can't do too much harassment, but his spells are relatively cheap. And once you pick up a Soul Ring, I think there are very few tri-lane heroes that can really match up to him. He has a heal, he has a shield that can immediately debuff stuns, and one thing that always bugs me in Omni Knight, just because I've played Abaddon a bunch of times in Dota 1 and Dota 2, you know, I like Omni Knight, I like playing him from time to time, but I just keep forgetting, I keep thinking, oh, if I pop Repel on this guy, he won't get stun anymore. No, that doesn't work. But Abaddon's Aphotic Shield does in fact remove negative debuffs, so if somebody's stunned, if you pop that Aphotic Shield, no matter how long the stun duration, whether it be 3.25 seconds, 1.75 seconds from the fissure, or I think that's 2.25, but and I mean the long range duration stun of the Dragon Tail and the Earthshaker long duration stun will just get immediately dispelled once a Aphotic Shield is popped, and of course it soaks up damage, it deals damage in a huge AoE. It's definitely a very powerful supporting spell, and unlike most supports, he definitely does not have too much of a difficult time in terms of surviving. Pretty much immortal, and he's a really strong chaser. The only problem is that in a try-in situation he is melee, so he can't really do physical harassment, and he does have mana problems until he gets some sort of mana sustainability. And keep in mind, Keep the Light is on the other side, so they don't have the opportunity to pick up Keep the Light for themselves. But usually Weaver in the Southeast Asian scene does tend to get locked down by Queen of Pain if she picks up a fast Orchid. Dragon Knight, once he gets the Lothar's Edge and then pops out the Dragon Tail, Weaver will tend to die more often than not. So I think this Abaddon pick is mostly just seeing, okay, we have a Weaver, we want to make sure he never dies, never gets stunned, even with the Lincoln Sphere, which I'm sure Weaver will most likely get. Instead of a BKB, he'll probably get the Lincoln Sphere first, but even then, we want to make sure he never dies, and if he does get stunned, we're popping the shield on him, and then he can run free and cause all sorts of havoc all over the enemy squad. So Abaddon's a pretty cool hero, but again, this is not why I picked this replay, interestingly enough. Because he is decently seen in the Southeast Asian scene. He's definitely by no means a common pick, but he's not really a surprise pick anymore. He's definitely has his niche. He's a strong support, and he has a difficult time dying. So yeah, I'm not too sure when Abaddon will be implemented to Dota 2. Probably not for a while, since we haven't seen any work on his textures or on his particle effects or anything like that in the Dota 1 files, but still, or in the Dota 2 files, but still, I'm just waiting for the day, and this is why I chose this replay. Let's go, Shredder. Now, as you all know, Timbersaw has been in Dota 2 for probably about 2.5, 3 months, 2 months at least. It's been at least 2 months, I think. And still not imported into Captain's Mode just yet, but even then, if he's playing Captain's Mode, what role does he have? Because Timbersaw, before the whole Dota buff shenanigan went down, and even now Dota buff is still a functioning website, but Timbersaw was one of those heroes who has a very, very low win percentage, and I think he's a hero. He has some problems, obviously. He's melee, he doesn't do much physical DPS, he survives only after he gets hit a bunch, like sort of like a Huskar. He has mana problems as well, so there are a bunch of issues with Timbersaw, as unfortunately there's no observer slot, so I'm just going to keep my eyes out and check out the CS and the scores like that just by manually clicking everything. But yeah, Shredder is a really, really interesting hero. I think he's incredibly fun. He's sort of like a Spider-Man Tarzan, swing from tree to tree. He's more like Tarzan than Spider-Man, although he does cause a lot of deforestation. So he's more like a terrible Tarzan. He's sort of Tarzan's evil twin. He swings from tree to tree, and then he cuts them all down. But I think the best way to look at Shredder is sort of like a Storm Spirit combined with a Puck, although not as good as either of those heroes. He can be tanky. He doesn't really have a reliable form of escape, because sometimes the tree hook does tend to get not be the most reliable. I mean, of course it can hook in, but for some reason or another in Dota 2, sometimes, even when the tree gets hooked, it doesn't drag you all the time. I mean, 90% of the time it does, but there's always one instance where I guess you target this area instead of this area or this area or this area, and then the hook range is just outside of it, so you don't actually hook. So I guess that's more just bad clicking by people rather than Shredder's ultimate failure as a hero. But yeah, he's sort of like a Timbersaw or a Storm Spirit and Puck. One thing that he's similar to a Puck is that he gets in everything. He can escape, he can survive, and the longer he survives, the more havoc he can deal out. Puck is one of those heroes because Puck always survives through the worst of those situations, initiates by being up close and personal, gets a silence, gets a dream coil, holding it in place, and I guess you can sort of think of the Chakram by the Shredder as sort of a pseudo dream coil, even though it's not nearly as good. I mean, it does do more damage, it slows people down, it can be channeled indefinitely, or not even channeled, just be cast indefinitely until it gets returned to you, even though it drains mana. And he can escape, he can initiate, and he's not really your primary target. And he's sort of like a Storm Spirit as well, because he can go in, deal a lot of damage, go out with that short cooldown on the Timber Chain. unlike a Puck who sort of goes in and then he doesn't really have any way to get out unless he has a dagger up. And even then, if he doesn't want to get out, he really just doesn't really have much presence to go back in if he's already out. If you can sort of understand where I'm going with this weird random flailing point. But Stormsphere can zip around, always stay in the battle, always cause a lot of havoc. But he's not like a Storm or a Puck because he doesn't really have a stun, he doesn't really have a lot of burst damage, his damage is more sustained because of the Chakram. Timber Chain only really works with trees, and the main weakness of the hero is that it's just really reliable on trees. And he would make a really strong midsole, but again, midsole, there's just no trees anywhere. Except on the outer banks. As you can see, Dragonite actually have a lot of difficult time against this Anti-Mage. Makes a lot of sense, as, again, Anti-Mage middle lane. Where else do you see this except in Southeast Asian Dota? But it does make a lot of sense, as Dragonite does love to bottle crow, but Anti-Mage constantly burning his mana. Although Dragonite, once he picks up the bottle, should be a-okay. And again, Abaddon, Weaver gonna be best friends forever in this game. They're just gonna stay always close together. Abaddon not able to already used a lot of his mana, I guess, on a couple shields, or I think mostly on Dreamcoil, healing the Weaver up. And this is the problem with Abaddon. He doesn't really have a reliable source of mana sustainability, and because he's played as a support, doesn't really have access into that until he gets something like an Arcane Boots, or if he has something like a Coddle on his squad. Leon Magnus, we all know what he can do. He's annoying. He deals so much damage in the late game. Any team that has Magnus in the late game automatically has the edge, in my opinion, even against a Phantom Lancer, just because he can cleave through it with the Empower being casted on up to 3 heroes. He can reverse polarity if you get a Refresher, then it's 8-second stuns essentially of just pure, unadulterated mayhem. But just checking out these lanes, Enchantress just going to scare away the Earthshaker for a bit, but this nice timing on the Enchantress creep, making sure it dies. But you can see already this Charlie having a bit of trouble. Abaddon taking this time using some clarities. I guess he got some clarities shipped towards him. He had some tangos earlier. Maybe they swapped hands. Maybe he just got him delivered on the courier. And since this is a Southeast Asian Dota 1 game, you are going to see double couriers on both sides. So definitely not too standard. And again, since there's no observer slot, one of the main quirks of casting Dota 1 games is that sometimes there aren't observers in a game and teams just upload the replays, especially in Southeast Asian scene. And when that happens, you can't really pull down the graph and see, oh, CS some levels and all that. You just sort of have to manually judge it. I mean, you can see levels and stuff, but still, a little bit annoying. Meanwhile, this Enchantress is roaming all over the place. I forgot to choose the players and teams, as I do not anticipate too much action happening, as Illuminate is going to channel, just barely manages to hit the Weaver, but Weaver's already so close to tower that I don't imagine Naga wants to dive in too closely. And Earthshaker is healing up his mana, so should be fine. But I guess now's as good as time as ever to introduce the players and teams, as B is going to be handling that Abaddon, Lord of Avernus. Nakam is playing the Weaver, the Star is playing the Anti-Mage EE, or just E in this game, is playing the Magnus, and 520 is playing the Enchantress, who's roamed all the way to the top lane. I guess just to get a little bit more free farm, because she knows that Abaddon is not an aggressive trial-end hero. He's a very defensive trial-end hero. Weaver doesn't really output that much damage in trial-end. He can survive, but he really wants to have that much faster access into a higher level Shikuchi, which is why we see him off lane so often in the pro scene in the Dota 2 days, or Dota 2 scene these days. And Enchantress is a support who wants to get levels, he wants to get tanky, wants to get items so she can get tanky, otherwise she'll never be tank. She'll just be an Enchantress, and that is never a good idea. On the scourge, we're going to have Taku for CAHSM playing the Naga, Yafils is playing the Shredder, AB is playing the Keeper, Hey Girl is playing the Earthshaker, and AJ is playing the Dragonite, as mostly just jockling around. We're not going to usually see too much crazy action in the early stages of the game. Keep in mind, there's Southeast Asian Dota 1, and there's Pinoy Southeast Asian Dota 1, where there's just action all across the map. I mean, if this is a Pinoy Southeast Asian Dota 1 game, there'd at least be 2 or 3 kills in this trial thus far by both squads, but this is a much more calculated Dota 1 game, as Shredder is going to initiate onto the Magnetar. He should still have Skewer, as the Tornado is being channeled by the Enchantress, holding Shredder back, but he's going to get in range to try to get the first one. Magnus is going to heal up on the Magic Stick, but still the Timber Chain, so strong, will manage to heal him back up, as Shredder, I think he has 1 point, he definitely has 1 point into his reactive armor, so tank, so Enchantress can't actually kill him. He's regenerating up a little bit HP, and Enchantress, without the boots, can't hope to catch up to him, even though Shredder doesn't have boots either. In fact, went for that energy booster, and after that first blood, we'll have those arcane boots, so Shredder gets off to a good start. He will just have an enormous impact in the game, but if he gets off to a bad start, he really doesn't have any impact in the game. And keep in mind, I'm purely speaking on a public game perspective, because we don't see Shredder at all in pro games. I think I've only seen him once or twice in the Southeast Asian Dota 1 game. because by the time everybody switched to Dota 2, Shredder was not even in Captain's mode. And now Shredder's still not in Captain's mode. I guess there's some bugs to be ironed out, as we're going to see Dragonite do a bit of harassment to the anti-age poison damage, dealing quite a bit, just going to use some Dragon Tail, knowing to drain all his mana. I think that's the logic by Dragonite turning into his range form. Doesn't have the Fire Breath, so Anti-Mage knows he can stand a little bit more harassment before he can blink back, but still, ultimately, he might have to get a salve shift towards him, otherwise he will just stay out lane for quite a bit. We're going to see a rotation in by Enchantress. I think Anti-Mage should have full mana, does have the Tranquil Boots on the Anti-Mage, healing up all the while, as Enchantress is looking around, does have the Centaur creep, still with a relatively high amount of time, I imagine, as we're going to see a rotation around. Keeperlight is going to take a lot of sustained damage by the Weaver, but you can see Weaver on the minimap forced to back off, only 2 heroes versus 3, as Dragonite still waiting for the gank. Enchantress pinging madly. She wants Anti-Mage to go in to get some mana burn damage, or maybe she's waiting for the Dragonite form to end out, but the creep might die very soon, as I think they were timing out the Dragon form, but no, the Dragon form still has about 5 seconds. Here comes the Enchant, trying to get the Centaur in position, a little bit of missed micro, but if they can get the block going, Magnus is going to skewer in as well. You can see Anti-Mage desperately trying to block, but nice Dragon Tail, and I think Anti-Mage should have done a bit more harassment, as man, all of a sudden stuttering, as we're going to see engagement on the life of Naga Siren, but they can't. That's the problem of dealing against an Abaddon. If you channel the spell for too long, Keeper of the Light, the shield will explode, doing immense amount of damage in an AoE, and Weaver will just take very minimal amounts of damage. So Sentinel with a slight misplay on the mid lane, but all things considered, they did keep the Dragonite out lane for a little bit of time. But keep in mind, he does have the Bottle Courier, as he's constantly ferrying back clarities, as it seems that the Keeper of the Light did manage to pick off Nakam the Weaver. I think Weaver is almost level 6. Yeah, just barely, so I think he wanted to stay in lane a bit longer, get access into the time lapse, so he had potentially 2 escape mechanisms, but still, without his BFF Abaddon in the lane with him, he really should have probably gone back a little bit sooner. As again, this Enchantress roaming all across the woods, not really accomplishing too much, if all things can be said. She's just been roaming, doing a bit of harassment to DK in the middle lane, as we're going to see Shredder attempt assassination on the life of Magnetar using the, God, what is the big axe called? Timber Chain, just cutting off the Magnetar, and keep in mind the Shredder, oh no, now he's out of mana. Shockwave is in place, casting reverse polarity, but the tower, too stupid to realize that I should hit the Shredder, and I don't think it would have killed the Shredder regardless. Shredder popped the wand, managed to go back in, and man, it seems like in Dota 1, Timber Chain, I mean, I know it is max level Timber Chain, but it just seems like it's such a longer range. I don't know if it's bugged in Dota 2, but man, if it was me playing that Shredder, that Timber Chain would find a way not to be latched. Again, I probably would have targeted this area rather than, I guess, a tree, but still, just a pet peeve right there, as this Shredder already having a nice impact. And I think this is sort of the role we're going to see Shredder being played in, sort of only in a Trilane versus Trilane scenario, where he can solo the offlane. He can't solo the mid lane because there are no trees there. He can only solo the offlane. He can do pretty well in that regard, because keep in mind, he can cut down trees, he has a lot of escapability, unless he is, well, he prefers to be in the Dire offlane or the Scourge offlane most likely. If he's on the Sentinel offlane, then the trees he can only hook forward to are sort of, I mean, to hook back, God, what's wrong with my speaking today? To hook back, he's going to have to cross the river area, and keep in mind, you don't get that max range of hook until level 7. But still, he's a fun hero, definitely, but I think he only works in certain roles. And I think, you know, one of these crazy teams, whether it be Liquid or Virtus Pro, will find a way to utilize Shredder, as we're going to see a time lapse. And wow, I guess the Aphotic Shield doesn't dispel on time lapse. Never knew. As time lapse does dispel all buffs, as we're going to see Dragonite do a bit of harassment onto the Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage should be okay, as Anti-Mage trying to bait out like there was somebody ganking the Dragonite in the middle lane, but Dragonite knew better, is going to stay the heck back, as we're going to see rotation in. Oh man, Abaddon so close to dying with the Fissure and Illuminate spam, and we'll have to retreat. Again, a Aphotic Shield will help to secure his life unless they dive him all across the lane, but still, he's going to be a-okay. Look at how long the Aphotic Shield lasts. Can last long enough for Abaddon to travel from one tower to the next. And the Enchantress really not having too much fun in this lane thus far, and Weaver, I can't imagine he's farming too well. Again, he was in a dual lane where Enchantress is just sort of roaming around all game, and he has a Fox Shield, but he can't really play too aggressive, although he did, I think, get one kill at the very least, as Illuminate's going to fly in. Not too sure why Keeper is taking so much mana, or taking so much farm away from the Naga Siren. Keeper should just be channeling the waves behind the trees, but I guess that's the impact of Enchantress, because you never really want to channel too far away from the trees, as the Enchant Totem is in place, as well as the Fissure. Gonna use an Echo Slam as well to add insult to injury. Naga should have level 3 of net, but probably got 2 points in net, 1 point into the song, and 3 points in Riptide. As you can see, a chase going on for the Shredder. Shredder is so very difficult to kill by Anti-Mage. Very few heroes rely on mana as much as Storm Spirit and Shredder. As well, obviously Storm Spirit relies much more heavily because at least Shredder has a passive that makes him ridiculously tanky, but still. Definitely relies on it quite a bit to escape, to initiate, to do the bulk of his damage. Keep in mind, Shredder has very, very terrible stats. I think it's some of the lowest in the game. And I think if he had good stats, then he might just be borderline broken, because he does need his items. As just check out the farms. Again, very difficult to tell the farms. If I mouse over them, unfortunately I can't see. As yeah, even if I switch, I mean, you can see Naga's 700 gold. I had the arcane boots. A little bit curious that Naga went for the arcane boots with a Kato on her side, but I guess Kato wants to constantly refuel his own mana as well as Earthshaker's mana. And Earthshaker, I imagine, won't be too close to arcane boots, although he does have boots. And Naga is cementing herself quite nicely in this bottom lane, as a Fog Shield Abaddon is popped out. Just checking out the overall score, it's 4-5 in favor of the Scourge. Shredder doing a number on the top lane, picked up 2 kills. Dragonite, I think for the most part, went even, and this Tron, I think, has been even for the most part as well, but considering Enchantress again, not been in the picture for too much, this Sentinel can't be too displeased. And just judging by the state of this game, as Illuminate's going to be challenged, exploding onto Gandalf. Aphotic, Unholy Magic won't work against Gandalf, or apparently does work against Gandalf, as he took a lot of damage. And Net is going to fly in for the Weaver. They have a Sentry Ward in place. He's going to time-lapse back in range. But now Net is going to be on cooldown, but now time-lapse will be on cooldown for quite a bit. Song of Sign is going to chill. He's actually going to take this time to kill the bug, and he's trying to position himself to get a Net onto the Enchantress. Illuminate's going to be channeled. Will it hit for the full duration? Gonna channel the Illuminate, as here comes the Dragonite joining the party. Will pick off the Enchantress successfully. Riptide is in place. Keep in mind, Weaver does not have time lapse, and Abaddon's just going to scurry on out of there. They pick up a kill on the Weaver, and Abaddon is only left to look on in helplessness. Borrow time was already used, and he's going to die as well. So nice rotation in by the DK. Meanwhile, Magnus being driven back all the way to his tier 2 tower. Level 10 Magnus being bullied completely by this Shredder. Not something you see every day, but still. Shredder has definitely a lot more early game damage than Magnus, and probably a bit more survivability with the Timber Chain as well as the reactive armor. And you can see already level 10 will probably have, well, obviously he only has 1 point to reactive armor at this point, I imagine. Just maxed his 2 nukes and got his points into his ultimate at the requisite levels, but Shredder already doing a nice job in this game shutting down the offlane Magnus, and he only will get more and more annoying. Once he picks up Bloodstone, Shredder is basically pretty much set. He doesn't really need too much more mana, because usually in these engagements, before you use all your mana, you will end up dying one way or another, or the teamfight will be over. Unlike a Storm Spirit who needs so much mana to cast all his spells, Shredder just really wants to get in, get out, do a lot of damage, soak up as much damage as he can for the team, and if the teamfight isn't over by then, and you're out of mana, then Shredder obviously probably didn't do near as much damage. Probably you're not near to too many trees, as Dragonite gonna take a big damage. The Crow is gonna get assassinated. Nice snipe by the Weaver. Gonna give a nice chunk of gold to the Scourge, or the Sentinel squad. Man, I think what I'm fumbling over is just saying Sentinel, Scourge, Timbersaw, Shredder. Dire Radiant, as casted 2 Dota 1 games frequently. And, you know, I always used to be good at this, but times have changed. I've changed, guys. I've changed. I always used to be very, very good, even when casting Dota 2, saying, oh, Sentinel, Scourge, but now, Dota 2. It's changed some things. I think it's a streak. I got in the streak if I want to keep casting more Dota 1. But, luckily for me, perhaps, maybe not so lucky for everybody else, and a little bit unlucky for me, Dota 1 replays are very scarce. As, again, at default, this Enchantress really not having any impact, has just gone in for 2 ganks, and has died 3 times, really just not having too good of a time, as we're going to see Abaddon take a bit of siege damage from the illusions, as Anti-Mage, I haven't checked out his farm, already has a Battle Fury. Wow, that is definitely unexpected, as he is farmed quite well, but the question is, can he survive this onslaught by the Dragonite, as he only has 777 HP. Anti-Mage, can he survive? Abaddon is in place, he should be able to blink out to safety. No, the Dragon Tail did come in, the Anti-Mage blink animation. Very, very long, as Abaddon, I guess the Fog Shield was on cooldown. No, he's out of mana, and the 3 wand charges wouldn't have been enough. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Just as I was criticizing Enchantress, managed to pick up a double kill against the Shredder as well as the Keeper of the Light. So nicely done by this Enchantress, getting some ganks going with the RP, I'm sure. Definitely helped out the Sentinel quite a bit in that engagement. But they traded it for a free farming Anti-Mage. And Anti-Mage is going to be out of the picture for the next 30 seconds, not only the next 20 seconds, but again, while he's dead, that means Weaver, that means Dragonite or Dragonite, and who's the other carry on the side of the Scourge? Naga can farm up in relative peace. And it looks like they're going to attempt a tower push. It's going to be skewered back onto Naga Siren. Here comes the Fissure as Earthshaker trying to get position for the Echo Slam. Good thing that Naga Siren, well, a little bit of a mistimed sleep. I get a bit of God, what's wrong with me? I guess a bit of miscommunications. The Shotgun does go in doing so much damage. Illuminate is going to fly in. Shredder will pick up the kill. Timber Chain to pursue down the Abaddon. Abaddon will have the borrowed time, but no, I guess the borrowed time was on cooldown because he just died. The pure damage by that giant whirling death is so good as the Mana Void is in place. Anti-Age trying to speed up with the help of the Weaver. Will be able to pick off the Shredder. No, Shredder just zipping from tree to tree, literally like Tarzan, as he will have the Timber Chain up relatively soon, trying to juke into the trees. He will end up dying. Can he pick off the Weaver at the very least? Weaver, oh, just barely using that invisibility to get out of the range of the tower. Should be okay, as we're going to see Abaddon respawn. But right now, it's pretty close to 8 to 11. Scourge definitely have an edge. I think Dragonite and Naga Siren are farming a little bit too well for the side of the Scourge. Even though Naga Siren did, I think she died in the last engagement, made teleport out of there. A lot of chaos happening in these small scale team fights. Illuminate, again, preventing the sound from pushing in whatsoever. Net is going to catch the Weaver. It is going to reveal him. You can cast a Riptide. He will do so. I think time lapse will be in place, but even if you time lapse, he should theoretically still be in the net, as that is a mechanic that is in Dota 2, but I'm not too sure if it's in Dota 1. All of these mechanics make for a very, very unhappy B-ball. But yeah, Dragonite gonna be very close to picking up his Lothar's Edge, and it's a little bit funny to me to see Lothar's Edge become such a mainstream carry item. And I don't know if it's necessarily the P-Noise revolutionizing it, or more just because the attack speed change to Lothar's Edge makes it so good. I think it's more the attack speed, as now it is very common on heroes like Alchemist, Dragonite, heroes like that, as Magnus is going to get engaged upon. We'll be able to skewer out of there. Here comes the Dream Coil, will help to save the Magnetar. He's going to be A-okay, guys. Don't have to worry about him. But yeah, again, at that last team fight, a little bit of miscommunication with Naga Siren. I guess she didn't anticipate the Earthshaker getting such a nice fissure block. The Illuminate was being channeled. Earthshaker, I think, was trying to get in good position for the Echo Slam, and Naga Siren was trying to help him out, but still, the sleep was not cancelled. The Illuminate did whiff, and Earthshaker, I guess, didn't cast the Echo Slam, as Naga Siren's getting very, very tank. Most Southeast Asian Naga Sirens do like to go with Rainsfield. In fact, picks up a gem, really wants to shut down the Weaver at all costs. They know Weaver is pretty much the only hope. I mean, there's an Anti-Mage on their side, but considering Anti-Mage is so squishy, as you can see, a hasted Dragonite gonna come in, assassinate the Anti-Mage. As Anti-Mage is cute and all to sort of pseudo-counter Dragonite, but it just doesn't work against Ball Crowing, as it is just too strong of a mechanic for Dragonite in the lane against Anti-Mage. I don't know if it's too strong for Dragonite in general. I think dual lanes can shut down Dragonite in the mid lanes for the Southeast Asian scene, as a nice Timber Chain into Whirling Death combination by the Shredder will pick off the retreating Weaver. And I don't know, it just seems to me that the Timber Chain in Dota 1 is just faster in general. Because the Timber Chain in Dota 2, it's just like, and then he just pauses for a bit, and then he swings to the tree. In Dota 1, he just goes instantly. I think the Timber Chain in Dota 1 is actually a lot faster. I'm going to stick by it. As Van's going to get Ned in place. Here comes the Chakram, mostly just for the slow, as well as doing additional damage. Keep in mind, every 5% of HP that the opponent is missing, there is an additional 5% slowed applied by the Shredder. As he's getting very close to his Bloodstone, should pop the Magic Stick charges to get a bit more mana, as he's just using the Chakram to clear out creep waves. You know, Anti-Mage desperately trying to farm up, has died quite a bit recently. As you can see, the alternative name, Burning, is on this Anti-Mage. He was farming very well, but now he's not having too good of a time. Burning doesn't solo mid with his Anti-Mage. He farms pretty much protected by everybody else, and his team is so good that it lets him farm uninterrupted for the most part. But mid-solo Anti-Mage not nearly as lucky, As again, the Shard just clearing creeps very, very quickly. Whirling Death and Chakram definitely applying a lot of pressure, as the Chakram, such a big AoE, such a long range, means that it can hit creeps as well as hit heroes at the same time in just one cast. I mean, what more can you want in life? As they're going to see an attempt being made onto the left of Anti-Mage. Dragon Knight does have the Lotus Edge as well as an Invisibility Rune, but I guess there was a ward in place. Scouting out the Dragon Knight's movement, maybe they saw the ward, or maybe they saw the rune being taken. But as it is, because there's no Spectre slot, I cannot see the wards. So we're going to see Shredder zip in against the Abaddon, cutting down the tree all the while. So now he's actually a little bit of trouble because he doesn't have too many trees to hook to. Just aggressively, just going to hook out defensively. We'll be A-okay. And at this point, Shredder should have max level of his reactive armor. So this is probably Shredder's strongest point in the game, where he's very difficult to kill. He has a Bloodstone, so he can constantly spam mana. And the other team really can't kill him unless they devote all of their resources. You know, Naga denied the middle tower. Naga, I imagine, getting close to Radiance. She has 200 gold in the bank. Not too sure where the courier is. It is just flying all over the place. Where are you, courier? It is escaping my eyes for now. No, she just has the same items as she ever had. I guess she wasn't farming in the meantime. As I guess our Radiance with Arcane Boots Vanguard gem at 21 minutes would be too much to expect, as meanwhile, somewhere Earthshaker is going to blink in, going to catch out the Magnetar. Nice skewer backward, good to get the 2-man RP. Going to be some double teleport action. Abaddon will help to secure the life of Magnetar. Abaddon going to turn this gank around completely, but here comes the sleep, trying to catch up the Abaddon, draining all the borrowed time down all the while, and the sleep is going to be cancelled. Nicely done by the Nagastar. Shredder is zipping back and forth. Will root the Abaddon to the ground, essentially with the net as well as the Chakram. Nagastar, with the help of Lunate, will secure the kill, and now HH trying to duke it out, and then he realizes, I have 850 HP. Less than 850 HP on a level 14 Anti-Mage. He did not go with the Burning Build, and Burning Build is 1 or 2 points in mana break, 1 or 2 points in a blink. Again, this is all assuming that you have safe flame farm, as the net is going to be casted and Weaver going to time lapse out. I guess the net does get dispelled in time lapse in Dota 1. Interesting. But as it is, the tower will be defended, and Weaver just checking out his farm. Not even close to Lincoln's at all. Well, he'll have it up in about 1200 gold, but still, it might be a bit too late. Abaddon, despite his, I think he's playing alright, but again, level 8, primary support Abaddon. He's really defensive support, but they don't really have too many strong turtling heroes. I mean, their best AoE creep clearing ability is Shockwave and some shield spam. And as long as you wait out the shield, then the shield will not pop, as Weaver will escape relatively easily. But yeah, Anti-Mage can't really afford to venture close to the creep wave and clear them very, very quickly. Can't really split push because Dragon Knight at this point will just kill him with the Lothar's Edge Dragon Tail. And he has a Hyperstone as well, gonna go for that AC. Once he gets to AC, these towers will just die very, very quickly. The minus 100 tower is very huge. And Dragon Knight level 15, picking up that second point in Dragon form. He will have that Frosty Dragon up very, very soon. All we're waiting for now is the Winter Wyvern pick, which I do not think is captain mode in Dota 1, although it should be, because even the Chinese, for the most part, I think have stopped playing Dota 1. The money's in Dota 2, or the biggest money. Meanwhile, Nagasarn just farming up with the Riptide. Should be okay. Unfortunately, I guess she misses stacks somewhat, but man, still managed to hit 2 waves at the same time with 1 Riptide. You're not using illusions to farm. Interesting. I guess they're on cooldown, or they might be on the top lane providing a bit of Riptide harassment. But as is, Dragon Knight will be able to clear this tower without any resistance whatsoever by this Enchantress. And there's really nothing Enchantress can do. If she gets the Dragon Tailed, even with the preemptive heal, we'll just die. And we're going to see Magnus Blinkhead only catching the Keeper Light. They will be able to kill the Keeper Light. Fisher is going to come in. Earthshaker might be positioning himself. As you can see how much damage the Shire just did. The Chakram, Whirling Death, Timber Chain combination just did so much damage. And just checking out his armor really fast. Oh, Shredder zipping back and forth. Does kill the Magnetar. Shredder with 18 armor and disengage, and Echo Slam being dropped will be able to force the retreat of Abaddon as well as Weaver. And Abaddon is now out of borrowed time. I think he's out of mana for the most part. So Shredder, no fear, taking very minimal harassment. Just diving in balls deep. I think he might be getting low on mana. No, he still has quite a bit of mana, as well as 6 magic stick charges. But I guess he's very hesitant to dive into the base for very good reason. He did his job, he drove everybody back. They got 1 kill. and he has 9 charges, so now he can keep up his spam pretty much at will. If he goes for something like a Shivas or a Heart, he'll pretty much be immortal. As Enchantress never stood a chance. Nice Timber Chain in, catching this tree and the Whirling Death AoE. It seems bigger in Dota 1 as well. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Timber Chain is a lot faster than Dota 1, just judging by the speed. But that just might be me. As Magnus is gonna go in, but he doesn't have RP. He already used it on Keeper Light. He's just gonna feed. That was a straight up feed, as Weaver is gonna feed as well. Just went in a bit too much, and I think Scourge have got this game comfortably in the bag. Abaddon, I think overall played well, but a dual lane against a tri lane, against a Keeper the Light or Shaker tri lane, no less, just did not work out. And I think the main problem was just anti-mage. I mean, I think he can survive a Magnus losing top lane to a Shredder. Shredder is not one of those heroes who can single-handedly win a game by himself. But the middle lane was just a disaster. They needed somebody to gank if they relied so much on the Weaver, getting a support purely dedicated for the Weaver for the most part. If they want to play anti-mage, they really can't put him in the middle lane. They just have to let him farm up. They should have run an aggressive challenge. I'm not too sure. But they probably need that Scourge. We're going to run an aggressive challenge. Let's keep the Light or Shaker and the Naga Siren. And Naga Siren is a pretty strong trial hero, has a nuke, has a snare, and has, I think, 6 space armor at level 1. Ridiculous amount of armor. But yeah, Shredder did not expect him to pick up 2 easy kills in the top lane. Usually, I always overestimate, or I always underestimate Shredders when I watch them, how well they manage their mana for the most part. They just hold on to the mana, don't really use the Terrace too much, just use a Whirling Death here and there, and get some Timber Chain spam. Once it's at a sufficient enough level where the cooldown is very short, you can just zip in back and forth. I think even at level 1 the cooldown is very, very short. I think only the range and the damage increases as you level it up. I'm not too sure about the cooldown. I could be mistaken. Again, I have not played too much Shredder myself, but he's definitely my hero to watch out this game, as he's just causing all sorts of havoc all across the map. As Abaddon is going to be forced to pop Borrow Time right here. Net is going to go on to him. Heal is going to be popped by the Enchantress. Nice. Aphotic Shield dispelled the Ensnare, I think, but the Earthshaker with the Echo Slam. Once again, RP is just going to catch the Shredder, but the Sleep is going to cancel that. Shredder was actually RP'd over the cliff. Unfortunate for the Magnetar. Sleep going to be challenged. They're trying to get in position for the Weaver. They are going to hit the Fissure as well as the Weaver. No, just going to time sway. Aphotic Shield going to help secure the life of the Weaver, but man, Sentinel. These battles have just been lasting eternity, but Sentinel cannot pick up any kills. And I barely have seen Anti-Mage in these fights. He literally cannot do anything. He's going to try to get the Mana Void kill, and Earthshaker just going to pop the one. Should be okay. No, Shockwave will secure the kill, as looks like the Scourge might have stayed around a little bit too long, but as soon as I say that, Dragonite teleports, gets recalled back in with the double damage on him. Just going to easily mop up whatever remains of the side of the Sentinel, and I expect the GGs to be very, very soon. No! They're going to lose Magnus. And Scourge just now going to try to clean up this second barracks on the top lane. The question is, will they actually know that it's still there? Oh man, it only looks like Illusions know that it's there for some reason. Everybody else in Scourge just running back and forth. I'm not too sure why they're not killing buildings. But this is Southeast Asian Dota 1, even if it's not Pinoy Dota 1. As again, Southeast Asian Dota 1. It's still Southeast Asian Dota 1 at the end of the day. They still like to go crazy. They still like to kill people rather than taking buildings. And definitely a unique way to play it, but that's why some people love it and some people not nearly as fond of it. But it is nice to see, considering how many slow-paced games we've seen in Dota 2 as of late. Just see people not caring whatsoever. As there's a load of farm on the bottom lane, Anti-Mage desperately trying to seek it out. Weaver is like, no, go away. As I think this was better served for Anti-Mage. As Weaver can actually do stuff in teamfight. He can run around, he can cast Swarm, he can Shikuchi. You can see that's why he's level 15, despite having minimal farm. Does have the Lincoln, so actually Sentinel are severely behind, but they're not out of it, despite me sounding like there's a mine apocalypse going on for the Sentinel. But still, I guess Dragonite was single-handedly enough to drive the Anti-Mage away. Dragonite with the AC, pretty much able to instantly get the Anti-Mage to a 10th HP. Probably a bit lower as well, as Dragonite with the Lothar's Edge can pop out at a moment's notice, and you don't really want to get Anti-Mage to gem. And Sports can't even venture forward to place out any Sentry Wards because they're just being pinned up. Illuminate and the wave of death by the Shredder is just going to constantly keep the supports always back, always defending their towers. They really can't play swords. What more can you say? If they play swords, they'll get ganked by Dragon Knight. If they group up and play swords, then they'll just get team wiped by an Earthshaker. It's sort of just a double-edged sword. Or not even double-edged sword, it's just a lose situation. Meanwhile, I think Shredder is going to go for the Shivas. Hex is good on Shredder, but you want to get as tanky as possible so you can cast even more spells, be even more annoying. As I guess I was over-exaggerating, because it seems like the hook speed is still the same in Dota 1 and Dota 2. As he's going to hook away to safety, saying, I must leave now, my people need me. You know, Dragon Knight doing his best to split push on that bottom lane. Imagine if this was actually Warcraft 3, where the Dragon Knight Freezing Breath could freeze towers. That would be just a little bit overpowered. Just a little bit. Azu is going to take an immense amount of sustained damage. Dragon Knight might be in a bit of trouble, but this is all just a cleverly orchestrated bait by the Earthshaker. He desperately wants to blink in, and Scourge definitely want to end the game. They're split pushing up. Yeah, you never really want to group up against a Magnetar. You can sort of understand where they're coming from. And Anti-Mage at this point, if they get the proper RP in place, Anti-Mage will just kill their supports very easily with the Mana Style as well as the Battle Fury. Even though he only has 1150 HP, so I think split pushing is definitely the best option. As we're going to see Shredder initiate, noticing that the heal was on cooldown, going to be healed up by the Abaddon, but still the Enchantress just being absolutely a non-factor in this middle to late stages of the game. Shredder just going to zip on out of there, just accumulating another Bloodstone charge. Going to heal up with the regen, but a nice RP by the Magnetar, and you can see what I was talking about with the Anti-Mage with the RP in place. They easily clean up everybody. Shredder just going to man up against everybody. Are they going to pursue him? It's ridiculously difficult to chase down a Shredder when he doesn't want to be killed. As Magnus trying to get the skewer back, does get the skewer back onto the Dragon Knight. Dragon Knight Elder Dragon form I think is on cooldown. As you can see, Shredder zipping back and forth. Keep in mind the Timber Chain does do pure damage. Oh man, Shredder is just the most fun hero to watch in the game. He just doesn't care. As I just want to see his HP regen. Oh, you know. Actually, I don't even think reactive armor is in place. It's just the Shiva's guard armor as well as the AC aura. As he should just take these groups, get a bit more armor. That was interesting. I guess the Chakram didn't actually hit the sleeping units. As these dragons spawn, people are like, wake me up when I'm in Dota 2. But Scourge, realizing that split pushing was not really working out that well. And pushing all in S5. Definitely not what you want to have happen when you're dealing with an Anti-Mage and a Magnus. And even though Anti-Mage was very much a non-factor in the early stages of the game, he's starting to become a factor. And just checking out his gold is saving up almost 1600 gold in the bank. So Scourge is smartly going to take down the Roshan. Will give the Aegis most likely to the Dragon Knight, even though if you die with Aegis on, you will lose the Dragon form, but still, Shredder not going to die. And Dragon Knight can definitely use the Aegis, as even without the Dragon form, still deals a bunch of damage. As Dragon Knight does pick up the Aegis, meanwhile the Naga Siren farming it up, only with the Diffusal Blade, not really having the best time, as 300 gold in the bank, might be for that very late Radiance. Won't put it past the Southeast stations, as they do not care about the timing of the items. When they commit to an item, they commit to it 100% of the time. Oh, what's that? There's only like one targeted stun in the game? Well, still gotta go Lincolns, because, you know, that's what my hero needs. But again, Naga could just be saving for the buyback. As you can see, Naga go down. They might catch out burning the Anti-Mage here. Again, not handled by burning, handled by the Star, I think. Meanwhile, Magnus just checking out his items. Again, he has a dagger as well as the arcane boots. Still very far away from anything like a Refresher. I have not checked out Weaver's impression. Is he going for BKB? BKB is not even a good item, because if you're slept, then you'll just be woken up by everybody. Everybody else on the team will be slept, and you can be knighted through BKB. And this is why Naga first came onto the scene, in case you guys didn't know. She was purely to exist as a Lycan counter. In the Asian scene, she was the anti-Lycan, because you can BKB. If you BKB, you can just sleep up, focus on Lycan, and net him. If you BKB and try to run, you can net him and then kill him. That's what Naga was introduced in the scene as, with her recent slew of buffs when Riptide was changed. As meanwhile, Shredder killing everything. This is awesome. GGGs are called by the Shredder. as Nakem says Probably a bit confused, as these two teams are Cambodian. No GG's called by the Senna. I thought they were friends, but it seems like they're a little bit annoyed, to say the least. As Magnus is alive. Did he pop the RP? He did not. He just left. Wow, Senna not even bothering. I guess Shredder could be an anti-blink dagger carrier, as well as Magnus is going to buy back. He does have the skewer as well as the RP. Trying to get in position to skewer, obviously, but again, so difficult to catch Shredder, who does not want to be caught. And Weaver's going to die as well. So hopefully you'll learn a couple things in this commentary. I tried to make it a little bit more, lighthearted, as well as a bit more educational, as compared to the more standard play-by-play that I usually do, and make terrible jokes that I've done in Dota 2. But it's interesting to see not only Shredder, and I completely forgot there was going to be an Abaddon in this game. And Shredder, I think he's a hero who might have a very small niche in Dota 2, but only the smallest, only in very specific situations. Again, I think he's only best used as an off-lane hero, or a safe lane hero when you know there's going to be a try versus try action. Other than that, I mean, doesn't really have a place. He's not a good try lane hero, he's not a good mid-solo hero, but he needs experience, he needs farm. But once he gets to farm, he's pretty much set. He doesn't need really any other items besides the Bloodstone, because he does have that innate takiness on the reactive armor. And I hope you learned something about Abaddon again. I think if they ran something like a... I don't think Enchantress is the right use of this try. Maybe if they ran something like a dual lane made against the Dragon Knight, Abaddon and Anti-Mage? I don't know. But Abaddon, he's a pretty cool hero. I mean, he's a decent try-lane melee hero, but I think it's odd to say this because he's a very defensive hero by nature, but I think in a try-lane situation you sort of have to be aggressive with him, otherwise you will not use you won't get kills with the Aphotic Shield. And because of the huge AoE it does damage, and then as well as the damage you can soak up, I mean, it's just too good. So he's a little bit of a weird hero, but I think once he gets past the early stage of the game, if he has some form of experience as well as may Arcane Boots or may a Bracer, I think he's I think he's sort of similar to a Dazzle, where both he and Dazzle need a decent amount of experience as well as items, but once they get going, I think they're pretty much the best late game supports in the game. I mean, I haven't tested out any of the new hero supports, but still, they're pretty strong supports if they manage to get some farm and levels. But again, in this very, very carry-oriented metagame, not only in the Southeast Asian Dota 1 scene, but in this very carry-oriented metagame, I do not expect to see Abaddon too much if or whenever he's introduced in Dota 2. But yeah, thanks for watching, and let me know if you find any other interesting heroes or interesting replays. Maybe if you could see a Slark replay, I don't know, but I would be very, very hyped to cast that. As yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Peace.